You know that feeling when you start a book, you read the premise and you are like, okay, this is something that I'm interested in. And then you start reading the book, it opens with what you know about the book, but then it goes into a completely different story that keeps you engaged. And that's what happened with Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier, or at least that's what happened to me. Now, this is a story of Paris, who is found by the police in her bathroom with the possible murder weapon and her husband dead in the tub. In the beginning, you'll have a few chapters where we are following what happened to her right after, like she had to go to the police station, the questioning, who's going to represent her, and all these things that you think the book is going to be about, almost like her trial. However, if you keep reading this book, which, by the way, if you remember, I was going to unhaul, and I had started the chapters about what happened in the beginning, but then I had a friend that said, no, you have to keep reading because there's more than that. And I am glad I did, because this book took 80% of its time talking about something that happened in the past that for me and my level of entertainment, I found a little bit more interesting than the premise itself. Now, it all connects to it, so I do think there's a little art to it, and I think it's a very unique way of writing. I've heard about Jennifer Hillier for a really long time. A lot of people love Jar of Hearts and some other, I think it's called Little Secrets, and some other books that you'll see recommended over and over again. But when I finished this book, I went online immediately to try to find another title. And this other title that I'm reading, it's pretty much the same idea. It starts with the concept of the book, but then the rest of the book, it takes you to another thing, which is as interesting or more interesting than the actual premise. So at the end, it ties it together, and I feel like this is the kind of ending that is very satisfying. Now, I did have a theory in the past story. I had a theory of what happened, and it was kind of right. So I was able to predict it maybe a few chapters before it was finally revealed, but it did take me most of the book to get to my conclusion. I also like the idea that at the end, when you think that everything is said and done and the case has been resolved somehow, you get the actual truth. So to me, that is one of those books that no matter how many pages they have left, they find the time to make the story a little bit more interesting and to actually put it together, the entire thing. The 80% part of the book that takes place in the past and what happened in the beginning of the book. So I think that this is a very unique way of writing, and I find that that's kind of her way of writing, or at least for some of her books, where she gets you with a premise and then she takes you into this wild adventure that you were not prepared for, but that is very entertaining. So I loved it. I loved the audiobook as well. Even though the voice of the narrator wasn't my favorite, it still was engaging enough that I was able to listen to the audiobook when I didn't have the time to sit down and physically read the books. So to me, this is a 4.5 stars. It was very entertaining, and I was surprised with all the twists and turns. And this other story that was basically the main one, and we didn't even know that's what it was. So I really did enjoy it. The only thing, and why is it a 5-star, is because this was a little bit more domestic. Like, there's just some messy characters in here that maybe is not my favorite thing, but her writing style, the story itself, how put together this book is, it really deserved 4.5 stars, and I enjoy every minute of it. Now, is this a popcorn thriller? No, it's not. And it's a lot more intricate, and you do have to pay attention because a lot of the characters, you are kind of putting it together in your head and it's not completely revealed to you. It's also the fact that this, some people said that this includes an unreliable narrator. I don't think so. I think that the way that it was done, it was hiding some things, but not plainly where she was telling you the whole story and skipping a part of it. It was more trauma related, and I thought that in this case was very tastefully done. So if you're looking for something really interesting, well written, and I think something that is going to pique your interest, I would give Things We Do in the Dark a go. It does include podcast element, however you don't get the podcast itself, but the investigation from the podcaster that is included in as a different POVs. And I don't think that this book is talked about enough here on YouTube, but definitely one of my favorites for the month of February.